Why do movies with a simple premise decide to make a convoluted plot towards the end of the movie? Apostles, a Netflix original based in the time period of 1905 in London. The story starts off with Thomas Richardson traveling to a Welsh island to go ahead and rescue his sister from a mystical, kind of creepy cult on this island. His sister Jennifer was kidnapped by this cult to be held for ransom because his father is very rich. The movie starts off with a very simple plot that could be done very well and could be done justice, could send an easy message to people in a horror movie, and that's completely fine. But what happens later in the movie is they end up convoluting the plot a lot. It was just a rescue mission from the start, and rescue missions can be done very well. Just like, for example, Taken. That's a good movie. The very first movie was all about him finding his daughter, and he has skills and he's able to do so. That's it. Could be great. They make it super convoluted and kind of hard to follow near the end of the movie. What's interesting about this movie, and something that is noteworthy, is that it's actually directed by Gareth Evans, which, if you watched his movies, he's very notorious for the raid movies, the fighting movies, the kung fu fight. It's great. The choreography and the fights are very good, but I feel like in this movie, per se, he tried to make it more about the plot than the action aspect of it, and it ended up kind of blowing up in his face a little bit. Another noteworthy thing is that he also directed one of the short clips in VHS 2. If you've watched the VHS movies, the one that he directed in the second movie is about a creepy cult that these people have to infiltrate. And that short clip was done very well, and I don't know what happened that kind of made this one kind of slump over and die for me. In this movie, the acting is very well done. Everybody feels like they're from 1905. They all have the really old British accents. They all feel believable, like they're from that time period. Everybody who's acting is giving it their all, 100% in this movie. Everybody felt like they were supposed to be that character, and I really enjoyed that part of the movie. The atmosphere in this movie is actually very spot on. It has this dark, dreary kind of undertone to everything. They kind of use like a bluish kind of coloring for everything, at least that I pictured. It feels very depressing. It feels depressing, and it feels like a heavy blanket, has been dropped on you just watching the movie. And that's good. You know what it feels like? Yeah, if you've ever played Outlast 2, it has that atmosphere in it. And that's a very good horror atmosphere. So, personally, my only problem with this movie is actually the writing. The movie tries to be smarter than what it actually is. The gist of the movie is that he's just trying to save his sister. It's a rescue mission. Just having to rescue your sister from a crazed, deranged cult is already an interesting aspect and is scary enough. But it's almost like that VHS 2 part, if you've ever watched that movie, or that part, I'm saying. It's almost like in VHS 2 where it was about a cult and then they put this mystical element to it. The difference, though, is that in VHS 2, that was a short film that was like 30 minutes long. They could add some mystical stuff at the end for shock value, and it's a really cool short story. In this movie, it feels like two separate movies. One is about infiltration and trying not to be caught by a deranged cult. Then the other aspect happens, and it feels as though they just decided to make it like a brutalizing, like torture porn sort of movie. And it kind of just comes off as like they were going in one direction that was pretty smart, safe, but it made sense. Then they go into a mystical, brutal element to it that almost feels like two separate movies. It actually feels like three different movies, to be honest with you. The most annoying part, though, for me, is that they had this thing going for, it was like a psychological horror, and it would have been great, but then they just traded out for brutality, and don't get me wrong, I love brutality. I love, gore in movies, but when it ends up being like the last half of the movie is just all gore and there's absolutely no psychological thrill to it at all, it takes away from the movie to me. And it's not that brutality is bad, because they could have went in that aspect if it made sense. The problem is the segue between the psychological horror and then getting to the brutality part. It almost feels like there's no middle in between. It just goes from psychological horror, bam! People are starting to get stabbed and chopped up for no reason. It feels like they forgot what they were trying to do, or at least they ran out of material for the last half of the movie, and they kind of just shoehorn in place like a lot of violence in the movie just for shock value, not for a purpose in the story. So what happens is that they were trying to portray a deeper aspect, like, in the movie, and it kind of gets lost in translation between the brutality and the psychological horror, and it doesn't really make any sense at the end. They just kind of lose it. It's like they forgot what they're trying to do, and it almost felt like two different, like, directors were directing this movie. It just was strange. And by the end of the movie, you're not shocked at all. Like, they were trying to go for shock value, at least that's what I'm thinking they were trying to do at the end, but it never really connects like that. You end up just being kind of confused. And being confused at the end of a movie usually isn't a good thing. Sometimes, you know, like, if you don't know how to, like, watch a movie and you don't understand, like, basic, like, principles and things like that of, like, an idea they're trying to like, present to you, I can understand someone being confused. But I'm pretty good about this. Like, I try my best. Like, I really like looking for, like, the metaphors in movies and stuff like that. But in this movie, it's like they try to do something smarter than what they really set out to do in the first place. And then it kind of makes it look dumb, and it just confuses me. It really has nothing to do with the movie at the end. It's hard to explain because I don't want to spoil anything. I could get into spoilers, but I'm just going to let you guys kind of watch for yourself. Is the movie worth watching for me? Yeah, I think it's worth watching. Like, it's a good, like, you know, if it's on Netflix for free, go ahead and watch it for a little horror time or whatever. It's not too bad. But is it great? No, it's not great. So for me, personally, I'll go ahead and give it a C+. If you guys like my video, please like, share, and subscribe and do all that stuff. Click the little bell icon at the top because that gives you notifications about new reviews that are coming out from me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see ya!